Healer of hurt souls, animator of pained hearts, music medicine.
Podcast. This is the place where we'll discuss all things mental health, neurodiverse and creativity related. We'll be interviewing creative practitioners on every show and getting to know about their creative projects, as well as opening up about their mental health and well-being practices. The haiku you heard at the beginning of the show was by our very own Katty G. I'm Sadie P. And my co-host Katty G and I both have lived experience of mental health issues and or neurodiverse conditions. We're both massive fans of art, music, theatre and all things creative, as well as nurturing our own creative practices. Every episode we focus on a different topic. Please accept my apologies for the low quality audio during the first part of the show. That was a technical boo-boo on my part, so sorry about that. But nevertheless, this week we are...
Music!
Episode 5.
Episode 5, mad about music. We're always pretty mad about music, to be fair.
We could make a whole podcast just about music, really.
Well, we could if it wasn't for annoying copyright laws that mean that we can't play any music in the podcast. So
we'll be sharing some links to some artists on the Facebook page.
Yeah, that way you can have a listen to what we're talking about. So how have you been, Sadie?
Yeah, I've been okay. Just kind of recovering. I've got some good news actually.
Oh yeah.
Going back to the first episode where we were talking about the Couch to 5K app.
Oh yeah.
I actually did the first one.
Wow!
The first one, yeah.
Can we insert a crowd cheering sound effect here, please?
Insert round of applause, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. How did it go?
Feeling quite proud. It wasn't too bad, actually. I bought the trainers back in January, ready to go, and then I got coronavirus, and my lungs have been quite painful ever since. Yeah. But I kind of just felt like well enough to do it this week, so went for it. Yeah, how's your week been so far?
Oh gosh. Well, the main thing that happened in my life is that I got a pair of roller skates. And so wow. I've been out and about basically trying not to hurt myself and looking very uncool on the streets of my town.
Is it rollerblading or is it roller skates?
No, yeah, they're quads, so skates, 4 wheels on each one.
Oh, okay. Are they non-hipster ones or the hipster ones?
They're probably slightly more hipster ones, but certainly I haven't seen any hipsters doing it here yet.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say there's like hipsters like roller skating backwards, being really cool everywhere.
No, that's going to be me in like 1 month.
Cool. Yeah. So back to our topic of music. I always feel overwhelmed about it.
Yeah, it's it's a massive topic, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like when you're on a date and someone says, "So what music are you into?" and you go, everything, really. I kind of feel like that.
Yeah.
I can't name anything. I can't think of anything.
I have a bit of an eye roll if somebody asks that question, because it's just like, it shows that maybe they have a slightly limited, if they can only, narrow it down just to one genre, then maybe have a bit of a limited music taste. I don't know. It's just like...
I think it'd be more helpful to be specific. Like, what was the last artist that you listened to?
Yeah. Yeah, what music are you really enjoying at the moment or whatever?
So what was the last song that you listened to?
The last song we listened to? I was just listening to Reminisce. He's like a English producer, but he uses a lot of sort of African samples and stuff in his music, and it's all very groovy and danceable.
How do you spell it?
ROMANISE. R-O-M-A-R-E with an accent on the last E, I think.
Oh,
Romare.
Romare, that's how I pronounce it.
Maybe it is Romare.
I don't know. Sometimes I get a little bit uninspired by the music that I listen to, and I can get a bit stuck listening to the same things and get a bit bored. So really love like putting a shout out and asking people for their suggestions for music. And I heard about
I love that.
Romare in that way.
Romare. It's probably Romare.
I have no idea. I'm a bit similar with Bonobo. How do you pronounce him?
I think he's Bonobo, but I don't know. I'm the person that thought the girl in Harry Potter was called Hermione for like 5 years, so I'm not the one to ask about pronunciation.
Yeah, I listen to Bonobo quite a lot, and really enjoy that kind of music. But it's really difficult to put into words, I think. A lot of talking about music, and it feels a bit weird talking about it without playing it, you know, because normally when I'm talking about music, I'll be with somebody in the room and we'll be listening to it and both sort of sharing that experience of it.
Yeah, it's a bit like talking about paintings without being able to see the painting. Well, maybe we can talk more about like our sort of experiences with music then. Like, do you remember your first experience that like a live music experience?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think I'm probably a little bit of a late starter with like going to live gigs, because I didn't go to any gigs when I was a child. You know, if your parents take their kids to gigs and stuff, you know, I never went to anything like that. But when I was 15, my friend at school had an older brother, and he was like 10 years older or something, and him and his girlfriend took us to the V festival, and we just went off on our own and saw lots of live gigs. But the one I remember...
Oh my gosh, and that was your first live music experience, was it?
Yeah, so Skunk and Sea and
oh my God.
James and Ian Brown. But like, what laughs me the most is that Robbie Williams were playing, and we elbowed our way right to the front, and we got crushed. I was like, I don't care, Robbie Williams, I love you. But yeah, what was your first gig that you remember?
My first gig was Eagle Eye Cherry concert, I think.
How old were you?
And I think I was about 12. Yeah, my parents did take me, and I think that they very much just sort of stood at the back and probably had a couple of drinks. And I went down to the front row and shouted "woo" very loudly for about 2 hours, and then went home, I think. But yeah, I loved Eagle Eye Cherry.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, music's one of those things, like people feel like a real sort of, I don't know, it's so linked in with people's identities a lot of the time as well, right? It's so like linked in with like groups of people and that sort of tribal feeling.
I wonder if that's to do with age, or if it's actually something that's changed with time, and if it's actually a bit easier to be a bit more like musically fluid nowadays. Yeah. Because when we were younger, it was very much like it was kind of how you divided up the people in your school and by social groups and stuff, wasn't it? By what music they were into.
I guess so, yeah, like the grungy kids. And were you a grungy kid?
Yeah, I was definitely more into sort of angry, punky things and fat skate shoes. So I don't know where that put me, but I was in that ilk of things. Oh, yeah. But then secretly on the side, I was sneaking off to like Backstreet Boys concerts. But you know, nobody was allowed to know about that.
Yeah, I think I was a bit of a mixed bag when I was at school. Really, I was into Backstreet Boys and Will Smith. I was completely obsessed with. I was really into. All Saints, do you remember them? And
yes.
Who else? I can't remember their name now. TLC. Yeah, I was really into hip hop, and I think I got to my late teens and I started DJing, and then something kicked in for me where it's like I only listen to hard house. Everything else is not cool.
So your horizon narrowed.
I narrowed down, but it was just like a I don't know, like a insecurity trying to fit in thing, I guess, of like cool, that's not cool. But then I was sort of like broadened my mind a little bit later on.
Yeah, I think different places have sort of different musical moods as well. Like when I was in Australia, then I was listening to a lot of sort of, surfy, guitar-y, more chilled out things. And then in Barcelona, everyone loved a rave, so it was much more like electronic or house. And different places have different. I don't know what Bristol has, kind of sort of drum and bassy.
Bristol's got a really big Fela Kuti Afrobeat.
Afrobeat vibes. Yeah, but exactly.
You can find lots of different sorts of music here, but I think like on the live music scene, there is a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been to some good gigs of that ilk in Bristol.
Bristol's really good for music, actually. But yeah, I wondered if maybe we could talk a little bit about the therapeutic benefits of music, since this is what the show is all about.
Yeah. Ever been to a gong bath?
Oh God, no, I haven't. I'd love to.
Have you bathed in gongs?
I'd love to be bathed in the hippie vibrations of the gong. Have you?
I've had really good experiences with gong baths and really bad experiences with gong baths. And I think it all comes down, like the theory behind it, however much you believe in this sort of spiritual logic or whatever, is that whoever's playing the gong is sort of amplifying their vibes out onto everyone that is listening.
Wow.
And so whatever they are feeling will be like what is amplified out. And so when I've got sort of a nice feeling from the person who's playing the gong, then it's been really lovely and relaxing. But then I went to one once where something was just sort of off, and I was lying there trying to feel relaxed in this gong bath, and I just didn't feel it. And I peeked my eyes open and looked up at the guy who was doing it, and he was texting with one hand and just sort of half-heartedly playing the gong with the other hand. And I was like, I knew it. Like I could feel something was off about it. It's texting while gonging.
That's really bad form.
Yeah, and he had really weird vibes anyway.
So it's not just a case of whacking a gong. There's way more to it.
Yeah. It's definitely to do with sort of the person who's channeling whatever it is they're channeling, they're healing as well, I think. With singing bowls as well, it's the sort of the same kind of theory.
Wow, interesting.
You have to be in quite a sort of peaceful place.
Yeah, I love singing bowls. I've been to like a singing bowl meditation before. That was really nice. And I quite often when I'm working, I'll put on binaural beats. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that properly. Yeah. It's just like certain frequencies that are just on, and drones that just kind of go on in the background, and they just kind of pacify me, really. You can just kind of tap in. Sometimes when I'm working as well, I might put on some classical music. I remember a tax return once with classical music in the background. It's like it extracted all the stress out.
Oh, wow.
It's not even too bad. Let's not talk about tax returns on a podcast about music.
It's part of life, and if it helped, then it's all okay.
My life is already admin heavy. But yeah, I find that helpful. I was watching in our Guru's video. Alain de Botton, about
pop music,
talking about kind of lullabies and how we're such tonal creatures. Like we really, like with music, we really tap into the tones more than the actual words itself.
Mm-hmm. And melody can transcend things like whether we can understand the lyrics or whatever. Like the melody can convey the meaning of the song just as much as the lyrics can.
So what's your experience with making music? You do a little bit of that, don't you, as well?
I do, but I mean, I'm not I'm not any good at it. I don't ever write a song that I'm like, oh yeah, wow, that's got to be a hit. It's just sort of playing around with things and putting words to melodies, and because I only play the guitar really like basic chords and stuff, so it's just what I can strum along to as my guitar, basically.
Do you record and sort of do some stuff on GarageBand as well?
Yeah, well, I've started to, because I've just got like a tiny little keyboard thing for my birthday.
So cool.
Yeah, so I've started to learn a little bit of that, and you can also make beats with that and stuff. So that's really fun, but I'm very much at the beginning of that.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing about learning recording software or
like digital musical production.
Yeah, you can do quite a lot without having a lot of theory behind you.
Yeah. How about you? Do you make music?
Well, I have done, but it's not like, same as you. It's not like I've done anything that I sort of would feel kind of happy to share. Quite a lot of stuff that's like quite personal, I guess. And yeah, I've done a few bits and pieces here and there. I'd love to do a bit more.
Yeah, and it's funny how we both do it regardless of the fact that like it doesn't need to go anywhere. It's like the process of doing it alone is the nice thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
For me anyway. Definitely. Like I don't need it to be out in the world.
What's the most influential album for you?
Influential? I don't know. But like maybe the album that's sort of always been with me and that I love very deeply is probably the Graceland album by Paul Simon.
Oh.
You know that one?
I think I probably know a couple of songs from it.
Yeah, it's got like You Can Call Me Al on it and Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes and these kinds of songs. Yeah. Is it
from the 70s?
It was from, I think it came out in the year I was born, 1985.
Okay, cool.
And it was a collaboration with loads of South African musicians. So it sounds, very much like a sort of South African album, but with Paul Simon singing on it.
I don't think I am that familiar with it, actually.
Oh, Sadie, you're in for a treat.
Is he like Simon and Garfunkel?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm more familiar with like their stuff together.
Yeah, so after they broke up, he went off to South Africa and did this album with all these South African people.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to give that a good listen.
Yeah, you're in for a treat. How about you? What's your most influential album then?
Oh God, I was thinking about this. I was trying to prepare for it because it was coming. I would have to say 07, Simple Things.
Oh, really? I remember that. Yeah, I remember that album. Wow.
I guess when I used to drive, and it's like one of the albums that I used to listen to when I was driving. And from where I lived, I'd kind of get into like the city where I was sort of studying and working, and there's quite a lot of driving involved. And I'd always be singing along, and it's just it's really beautiful, kind of
very soothing.
Yeah, really soothing.
It's funny actually because I was born in South Africa in the year that the Graceland album came out. And then the first time I ever went back with that 07 album when I was 16 years old. And I remember, like, I tie it very clearly to South Africa, that album.
Oh my God.
And it was funny, a funny little sort of confluence of things all sort of
I didn't know you were born there. That's really interesting. How old were you when you moved here?
I think probably about 3. So I was only there for the first few years of my life. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My parents are British. They just moved over there for work because my dad worked for like a record label, and South African music after Graceland and stuff was having a big boom because of the Paul Simon album, actually.
Oh my God, that's so interesting. Your dad worked for a record label.
Yeah, he did back in the day.
Oh wow, it's so
Daddy cool.
Okay, here's another question. Are there any songs that you got really obsessed about when you were younger and you know all the words to?
The first song that springs to mind as like the song that I know all the lyrics to is Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang. I said the hip hop, the hip to the hip hop. I don't know why. I don't think I ever consciously tried to learn all of the words to that song, but I just discovered one day that I do.
Wow.
They are in there. How about you?
Yeah, mine's also a hip hop tune.
Ah, that's funny, isn't it?
I feel really sad. I did consciously like learn the words. I kind of recorded it off the top 40.
Yeah. rip it
off the radio.
Yeah.
And then kind of like I spent like an entire evening like writing the lyrics down, stop it, rewind a little bit, play it back, to like Gangster's Paradise. I can still bust it out now.
Yes. Come on, how does it begin? As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
I take a look at my life and realize there's not much left. Isn't
it so weird? It must be something about the rhythm of hip hop that makes its lyrics really easy for certain brains to remember.
Yeah, I think with hip hop, the lyrics are more like a percussion than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I know what you mean. Like a melody that just has like these long flowing notes is much, I don't really even hear the lyrics sometimes. It's just like sound. But with hip hop, because of the rhythm, the percussive nature of the rhythm, I think I really pay much more attention to the words. And they become much more easily memorable.
Do you use music for therapy? Not like go to a music therapist, but using it to make yourself feel a certain way?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I think like I know that I have sort of some repressed sadness, and I know that like if I put on certain sad kind of songs, it will help get it out, and I think that's quite a beneficial thing. Like then it's no longer sort of within me, and sometimes I will do that, although I try not to do it a lot because otherwise you become quite depressive. But sometimes it's really good for like to help sort of stimulate repressed things outwards.
Yeah, I love sad music, and actually I don't find sad music sad. I find it beautiful a lot of the time. Like a lot of people used to really take the mickey out of me because I really liked Radiohead, but I found it really beautiful.
Oh no, I love Radiohead too. Yeah,
actually when I was listening to Desert Island Discs with Tom York on there before we did this recording, because I'm preparing and I got down a rabbit hole and there was I could do that very easily, that's how my brain works, but they kind of mentioned on there that when people stop listening to sad music it means that they've switched off, which I'd kind of, I don't know, like a lot of people have got a real aversion to sad music. Yeah,
and some people are like that with quite a lot of like art forms. Like quite a lot of people don't want to ever watch a film that's sort of not a cheerful film or whatever, and it becomes a little bit the sort of whole good vibes only thing, the toxic positivity thing. Like I think that listening to sad music and that feeling when you're listening to it of being like, oh, I'm not alone in my sadness. Like, listen to this person who's singing their sadness, and what he's singing feels how I feel, and it can be a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I heard it described like this thing that can allow us to kind of frame and contain unmanageable grief. Yeah. And I think like a lot of the time when I've been really kind of listening to the same song over and over again and feeling really sad. It's like, but it's like a therapy. But maybe it's just a me thing. I don't know how many people do that.
No, I remember there being like the song Last Goodbye by Jeff Buckley was like a turning point song moment for me in like getting over a really bad breakup. And it was that song that turned the corner for me. It was discovering that song and then listening to it repeatedly. It was just such a good song for closing a chapter and being thankful for what was, but then, you know, it being over. You know, it's sort of like a closure song.
Freya Ridings is like a person who sings about, breakups and like that sort of grief that you don't know what to do with. And I guess like because I like to play music, I often play other people's music, and they're the kind of songs that I like to play a lot of the time.
Yeah, sad music is like super super powerful stuff. It's a shame that people have a resistance to listening to it.
Yeah, I've often felt like I have to sort of do it on my own, hide away. Oh, I'm doing the sad songs again. Don't let anyone listen. I'm a bit embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
To it.
There's a music hall near me that just before lockdown, they were doing like deep listening experiences where you go and not very many people, like much less than a concert, but you lie down on the floor in comfy spots on the floor in the music hall and just listen to a full Radiohead album from start to finish really loud on like an amazing sound system.
Oh, wow.
And they're like these deep listening experiences. So obviously there is an appetite for listening to sad music. But
oh, that sounds amazing. How often do we sit down and listen to an entire album start to finish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think most of the time we listen to songs, there's some sort of mix that's thrown up onto Spotify. sitting listening to the entire album as it's been curated as a journey.
It's like a concept.
Yeah, I'd like to do that bit more of that.
And our attention spans have got so short now, as you say, like we're used to these shuffling playlists and stuff, that to actually sit down and listen to a concept album from start to finish is like, it's a way to experience art that we're sort of hopefully not going to forget, but lots of like maybe younger generations are doing it less.
The internet's really changed music. I mean, it's made it more available. Like anything we want to listen to, we can into YouTube and listen to it instantaneously.
And I wonder if in it being more easily available, it somehow decreases its value. Like a kid now will never know that feeling of like finally getting hold of a song or, hearing something new. And it's actually quite difficult to get hold of music when we were younger, wasn't it? Unless you were rich and could buy it.
What was the first ever tape cassette that you had as a child?
Oh, it's really uncool. I don't want to share.
Go on.
It was the Eurovision Song Contest entry for maybe 1997. Gina G, Ooh Ah, Just a Little Bit.
Oh, Gina G. I remember her.
It's still in the archive somewhere.
Oh, that's not too bad. Mine was Kylie Minogue. I should be so lucky.
Oh, yes.
I remember I was really young. It must have been like 5, 6. Yeah, yes. Kylie Minogue, the single, where she had that.
My sister had that
hat on with all the curls coming out the top.
Yes. Piled on top of it.
I always remember that. I just remember thinking that, this is so cool. It's what cool people do.
The era of dreamy Kylie and Jason.
Maybe let's talk a bit about how lockdown has affected musicians.
Yeah.
So it's an NME article with a study that finds 9 out of 10 musicians' mental health has deteriorated in the past year.
So there was a pre-existing mental health crisis amongst musicians even before COVID, but now with COVID and also apparently fears about the Brexit deal, messing up touring and stuff, it's just apparently musicians are really amongst the hardest hit, statistically speaking.
I guess because they're in the live events industry. It kind of says on here that a lot of musicians are thinking about retraining.
25% almost, it says, doesn't it? Yeah, 24% of musicians who took part in the study admitted they're currently considering leaving the music profession for good due to the knock-on effect of pandemic and Brexit.
It must be really difficult for people who enjoy their jobs and then to suddenly not be able to do it, and the grief for that.
Yeah, I think that, they also grieve for like the creativity that has sort of had nowhere to go in a way, and grieve for like also the connections that was brought to them through making music with other people. And there's there must be an awful lot of grief for musicians right now.
I hope that things get back to normal with that, with this roadmap out of lockdown.
Yeah, roadmap out of lockdown. Come on, Bojo.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I think that's one of the that I miss the most is going to gigs and dancing, and
Me too. Bring back the gigs. So, should we go and visit our friend?
Yes.
The means well.
Mad about gardens, looking really lovely.
It is, isn't it? All the spring flowers are starting to come out.
Quite a lot of flowers, yeah, it's lovely. The sun's out.
I can hear grumpy old pal groaning from here, though.
Oh, yeah, I know. He has to put a dampener on everything, doesn't he?
He's woken up from his winter hibernation and is hungry.
So I've got something. I put out a shout out on a autism support group, and something that came back that was a piece of advice, or maybe it's just a statement that's unhelpful, but probably the person who said it means well. And it's, you don't need a label.
I see.
That seems to be something that's quite common.
That people say that, you mean?
Yeah, I think there's different schools of thought on it as well, of like whether or not a label is helpful.
Yeah, and some people certainly like accuse people of using labels as an excuse, don't they? When actually it's probably the people that don't have sort of labels on of like neurodiverse things or mental health things that are the ones that think that. I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe somebody who is like just struggling with a lack of confidence and rather than an actual disability, it could be unhelpful. But should we shove it down the well?
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's shove it down there.
All right.
Should we shout it down together?
That's my phone. Let me put it on silent.
Don't drop it down the well.
God, I don't want to drop my phone down there. Christ. Okay, let's put it down the well. You ready?
Yeah.
You don't need a label.
Down it goes.
Okay, we heard the plonk, so let's bring it back up.
That means it's landed down there. It means Well's just having a think.
He's chewing, he's masticating.
No comment there. Mature brain.
Okay, I can see the bucket.
Oh, okay. Up it comes.
I've got it.
Oh, what did it say?
Opening it out. So the Means Well says that a more helpful thing to say to somebody rather than you don't need a label is if a label helps you to understand and break down your difficulties, then I support you.
Yeah, that's much better, isn't it? Do you find having labels a helpful thing or not really?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm still trying to. Yeah, well, I mean, my thoughts have changed on that over the years, to be honest. Like 10 years ago or so, I was trying to get a label. I was trying to work out why I was struggling with all of these things that my friends weren't struggling with, and even mental health services said to me at the time that they thought that labels aren't helpful because they make people get stuck and just think that they can't do things when they can, and they prefer to look at it as moods. But obviously the fact that I was actually disabled, well, actually, you know, I'm disabled in some areas, but I'm like highly abled in other areas. It's kind of a bit of an odd one, really, with my kind of flavour of label.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm still in the process of getting this all sorted. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm getting closer to understanding what it is that I need, and it is helpful. Yeah.
I can see that.
But I do find I do think it's important for people with these invisible disabilities, because, you know, if someone's got one leg, it's kind of obvious that they're not going to be able to just do a quick jog around the block.
Yeah.
But if someone's got an invisible illness, then a label helps other people to understand.
Yeah, right.
And helps to kind of lower expectations in a way, I guess. And without the official label or diagnosis, lots of people will just assume that you're being awkward, making it up, lying,
being rude,
being impolite, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it is helpful in my personal point of view on that.
This might be unrelated, but it made me think of how, like, recently walking the dog on the beach here, we learned that there's if you have a dog that's like a nervous dog, socially nervous dog, you can get a bright yellow lead, and that's like a signal to all other dog owners that your dog has a sort of nervous disposition and should be understood as such. And I was thinking, gosh, how have dog walkers worked out this quite like sort of intricate system to communicate sort of the social needs of their dogs? Yet as humans, we're still really struggling to, you know, not saying that we need sort of things, but that labels can sort of work in that same way, as a way of sort of signifying to other people what kind of understanding we might need, I suppose. Right?
Yeah, but there's a similar thing for humans where you can get these, I don't know what they're called, sunflower sort of lanyard things.
Oh, is there?
Where you can even get something from the police, where it's like.
And what do they mean?
So like if you're kind of stuck out and about or whatever and kind of lose your power of speech, or
right.
need some help and you can't explain yourself, you can't talk, you can have it kind of written down.
Okay.
That sort of thing. And also with wearing masks, some people are exempt if you have these lanyards.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that would really help
people.
because there's quite a lot of sort of aggravation in the streets at the moment with people sort of telling each other to wear masks and not knowing who's actually exempt and who's just being anti-masking or whatever.
Although I think a lot of people will just wear a mask just to not be like attacked.
Yeah.
Like to have to kind of like show your disability.
Yeah.
Lanyard every time, like because not everyone's going to know or understand or even care or like about that. So
exactly. I mean, I didn't know that existed, and I've been sort of looking for, systems like that. Just interested if they exist.
So what do you think about labels as well in terms of kind of mental health and things that you've experienced?
Certainly for me, I felt a sense of relief when I got diagnosed because it certainly sort of just explained everything. It was like, okay, so this isn't just normal. This is actually, an illness, and there can be a treatment, and that could be better. Although I never took medication or anything, it still helped me as a sort of tool for understanding. But then there could have been times where, like, when I was younger and sort of working it out, where I probably did hide behind it as an excuse for things. So it's probably a double-edged sword in some ways. But certainly, yeah, it was a good thing overall.
So do you think it did keep you stuck in some ways then?
Well, it was more like if I didn't feel like going out or something, I would very easily be able to rationalise that to myself and to other people as well. Oh, I just feel depressed today, I can't possibly go out. And it's because I'm depressed. It's because I've been labelled as a depressed person that I can't go out today. And I don't know if that was necessarily a helpful sort of stream of logic, but it's not one I use anymore. But it was certainly something I used to do.
But yeah, I do think there are some labels that are given that are unhelpful, and I think in particularly labels that are incorrect are unhelpful. Autistic women in particularly have been getting misdiagnosed with various other mental health conditions for years and years and years. I think it's kind of sexism in psychiatry, really.
Yeah.
There are certain labels that are kind of like a go-to thing for a woman who, and she's kind of judged on being kind of emotional rather than anything to do with kind of intellect, which is like autism used to be. Asperger's would be seen as like a thing that a man has, because a man is judged on his intellect, a woman is judged on her emotions. That's my interpretation anyway. I'm not a medical professional, but it's my understanding of it from my experiences and from working within the service and seeing and reading. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I think the least useful label is normal because it just does not exist. Well, thanks, Well. That was very enlightening.
Yeah, thank you means well. How was that for you, Well?
It was a good one.
See you next time, Well.
Bye, Well.
Okay, so welcome to the interview segment of the Mad About podcast. This time we have Heran, who is my friend, a music producer and sound designer, and has always also been the special effects guru for the podcast and made the jingle for the Mad About podcast, which is just awesome. Hello, Heran. How are you doing?
Hello, Sadie. I am good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for doing the interview with me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation.
Cool. Yeah, it's really great to have you on. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about what you do in your creative practice, if that's okay.
Absolutely. So I'm coming to the end of my degree in electronic music production at the moment, which I'm studying at DBS in Bristol. And yeah, I think sort of primarily what I do is just sort of what any bedroom producer does, is just sort of sit around and make beats on my laptop. Yeah, that's how it all began, really. But I've sort of branched out from there. I'm now obviously doing this work on the podcast, doing a little bit of editing on that. I've done a little bit of freelance work, mixing, as in sort of, yeah, doing kind of post-production on other people's music. And yeah, other bits and bobs really, just kind of audio-centric creative stuff. So kind of helping out with different projects, but a bit of an everyman really.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds really really cool. It's been really fun working with you as well, because I've learned a lot about editing and making sound effects and just making a podcast. Really, totally wouldn't have happened without you.
Yeah, nice one.
How have you found it working on this podcast?
How have I found it?
Yeah.
Yes, I've really, really enjoyed it. It's actually been, to kind of immediately allude to the main theme of the podcast. It's been a great thing for me. I think mentally, really, it's kind of kept me going to some degree, or at least it's been a little sort of nice. How do I say, kind of just an extra thing. It's been a nice thing to kind of look forward to doing. That's it. Like, it's some work that I really enjoy, and kind of feel, yeah, like it's a worthwhile task, and I know what I'm doing and stuff. And yeah. So that's a very long answer, but yes, I've really enjoyed it.
Cool. Yeah, I imagine like with uni going on as well, it's probably a nice thing to do because it's just not uni work.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I find I've been dragging my heels through uni pretty much the entire time. I just, for some reason, there's just some aspect to it that just doesn't quite click. Whenever I'm doing work with people outside of uni, things tend to go a bit smoother, but for this I've really struggled to kind of motivate myself, but this is like, yeah, it's been pretty smooth sailing for me, at least. Yeah. I know there's been a lot of turbulence on your end, but,
yeah. Yeah,
but, you know,
it's been really great. It's been really great working with you on this.
Yeah.
And I guess
likewise.
like the fact that the whole podcast is about getting rid of the stigma about mental health, and it's something that is close to all of our hearts, like everybody in the team. So I think that helps motivate me anyway. Would you mind talking a little bit more about your personal well-being journey and some of the struggles that you've experienced?
For sure. I would say that the journey began sort of in my late teens, sort of towards the end of college years. Yeah, I was you know, pretty sensitive and insecure kid growing up, and I think I just sort of didn't, for some reason, didn't quite have the tools or whatever to sort of fully grow out of that phase. And so when I left college, which was a bit of a, like, you know, it was the education bubble, it was kind of safe. I had my mates there, and yeah, after that I just found myself feeling very, very incapable and sort of inadequate, really, and just wondering what the hell to do. And yeah, I developed quite severe social anxiety as part of that. So
wow, it sounds like that's the kind of age where people are kind of like going out and drinking and stuff. Is that something you were doing and taking part in, kind of socializing, or did you?
Oh yeah, I mean, it feels a little bit of a distant memory at this point, to be honest. But yeah, I definitely, I wasn't upset if I missed out on I don't know, going to the pub or something. I was pretty good in my own company anyway. But I did have also my social circle I maintained after college and stuff. So I did go out, go out on the piss with my mates. But the alcohol was definitely a bit of a crutch. And yeah, it really sort of definitely got worse before it got better as well. I tried like getting a job. I went, because we both lived in Cambridge at the same time. I went to get a job on the punt, and which is like push boats for those listening. It's like,
And that guy from Big Brother famously worked on the punts, didn't he? Who, can't remember his name. Anyway, cut that out.
Okay, cut that.
Cut that.
Leave that in. Yeah, so, and I just couldn't hold down that job because I just like, I don't know, yeah, I was just a bit of a wreck, really. I couldn't really, I just felt embarrassed of myself all the time, and I couldn't really hold conversations with people. And yeah, I kind of like missed quite a few shifts just because I was too afraid to go in, basically. And yeah, so that was that. But I still had my sort of core group of mates, and we would go out, and obviously getting pissed kind of would bring down the barriers a little bit. So that, I was able to go out and socialize and stuff. But yeah, I would definitely drink a wee bit too much,
Yeah, I think that's quite common, isn't it, with people with social anxiety? I can definitely relate to that as well, like relying, like coping mechanisms, unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah, right.
So where are you at now in terms of your well-being journey and your mental health?
Well, I've definitely come a hell of a long way. I feel I'm on a crawlback from a pretty rough couple of months at the moment. Just for context, we're like coming to the end of lockdown now, and it's just been a very long and laborious and cold and everything lockdown, and obviously a lot of other people are suffering as well, and so yeah, I've been pretty depressed recently, but yeah, in terms of like macro journey, I mean, my social anxiety, I think it's just, it still exists, but I just can deal with it. I know, I think so much of what, like, the problem with sort of mental health issues, not all, but like, I think a lot of the times it's just your inability to actually deal with the sensations or emotions and stuff, and it's kind of the reaction itself that is the problem. That's kind of been the case for me, at least.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like nerves is an example. I mean, you could say social anxiety is just like it's just a manifestation of nerves in social situations, and if you're able to sit with that feeling and not react to it, then you can kind of master it a little bit. That's not to say that I don't find myself a bit uncomfortable at times, but yeah, definitely a lot better.
I think we can definitely kind of make decisions about how we react to stuff, but also I feel like, well, for me anyway, it's just a case of getting to know myself and knowing what I'm comfortable with and knowing what I'm not comfortable with, and not trying to force myself to do too much. But everybody's completely different, and everyone's on their own like journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, my biggest like personal accomplishments in that area have been they have been in a kind of in pushing myself in a sense. I don't know if I would necessarily use the term forcing myself, but maybe I would in certain cases. Yeah, but it's like being tactical and kind of intelligent in how you're doing it as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I was just wondering if we could talk a little bit more about lockdown, because you're obviously at uni, and lockdown has been like your whole last year at uni has been experienced in lockdown. How's that been?
I would say pretty ish. Well, it's kind of especially annoying for us because much of what was attractive about our course was the fact that we had access to like amazing equipment and studios. And so for half of our degree, we have not had access to that stuff. So that's a bit of a bummer. I feel like the staff have been putting in a major effort. Like I feel the level of effort that they're putting in to try and still make it worth our while and be accommodating to us. But yeah, it's just been weird. Like we've just been doing all of our lectures on Zoom, and obviously, it's difficult to engage really when it's like every day you're just flipping open your laptop and obviously you just there's a level of interaction that just is missing, and I think just generally for like creative types like us, like me and the people in my course, it's probably pretty difficult because I think there's a lot of kind of ADHD and that sort of just like wandering minds and stuff. So yeah.
So there's quite a lot of neurodiverse people on your course.
Yeah, I'd say for sure. Without wanting to like throw any diagnoses around or anything.
What does that look like then? You mentioned ADHD. Is that something that
I wouldn't want to like make any presumptions. I think I'm probably more talking about myself in that case. I'm not self-diagnosing, but I do just have a very like scattered brain, and my attention does just wander around a lot. Maybe that's just a lack of discipline or something. Who knows? But yeah, there's some real characters on my course, and I'm not entirely sure what neurodiverse means specifically, but like it's just you can tell that there are people that have their own personal kind of struggles and stuff. And
do you think in a way that maybe not just music but the arts in general provides like a home for people with neurodiverse conditions, like a place where we make sense?
Yes. Absolutely. I think
okay, next question.
Yeah.
Could you?
Hey, we're going to be done real quick, aren't we? Brilliant. I think people who are neurodiverse communicate in different ways. I mean, everyone has the capacity to communicate in ways other than verbally. I mean, I know a lot of people just from talking to them that like, I think it's probably true for pretty much everyone. Like you make music or you make art to have fun, to have a release. And all of that stuff is essentially a communication of some sort. It's a communication of an emotion or something. So yeah, I think, if you're struggling to communicate something that lives within you verbally, then quite often you go to art, music, whatever. Yeah.
So thanks for sharing a bit about your mental health and your creative practice. I was just wondering about the links there. What do you get out of making your music? Is it something that you do for well-being, or is it work, or is it both?
I've been really struggling with that question recently, and I think it's something I've always kind of wondered about, and even had like a little bit of like, I don't know if it's like concern or something, but I feel like a lot of people are really articulate about how their work relates to their personal mental health and well-being and whatnot, and how they wrote this album after a breakup and they were really depressed, and you can just hear, you can hear that relationship. Whereas for me, I'm not sure if it's, but I know that I a certain mood will come out of me, when I'm in a certain state, and yeah, it's very inconsistent basically. Like, because I've made some stuff that I've been really happy with when I'm in like the absolute extremes of both sort of places.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean, mental health wise, like when I've been in a really
Yeah.
dark place, and then when I've been kind of riding a good wave.
That's quite common with artists as well, isn't it? Like I can relate to that. Do you think if you hadn't experienced any mental health difficulties ever, that your music might be different, or maybe do you feel like you potentially wouldn't have gone down this avenue at all?
I think that's quite possible. I mean, it's a real big what if, obviously, but I feel like it's pretty unlikely, that I would be doing this. I think I'd probably be doing something more active with my life. I mean, I did a ski instructor course when I was 19.
I remember that. Yeah,
and I kind of just bottled it on that one. And you can see how, like that was, because actually I did that course, and then that was like real kind of peak social anxiety, and just sort of doubting kind of all of my abilities and everything. And so I like went back home for a bit, and then got this job followed by an internship in London, and it was there that I started thinking. I was like making crappy beats on my laptop and having some fun doing that, and I sort of thought, maybe I'll look into a course in music production. And so it was then that the whole idea sort of flourished and led me to where I am now. But it's been good.
It's lucky that you did. Otherwise, we'd have a really crap theme tune.
I'm glad this like journey of personal suffering has led you to your ideal podcast jingle.
I've heard some of your tunes. It's really, I really love your music.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
How can people listen to it if they want to check it out?
Well, I'm Heran on SoundCloud. That's Heran, and I am Heran_music on Instagram. And that's pretty much it at the moment. I also haven't really uploaded a great deal, but I am working on an EP that is due to come out pretty damn soon, next month or two, hopefully. So, yeah.
So I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit about what style your music is. Like, how would you describe your music to someone who was deaf?
I just make kind of experimental stuff. I guess trip hop I gravitate towards quite a bit. I sort of get a lot of Flying Lotus vibes, like comments from people on some of my tunes.
Could you talk a little bit more about where some of the inspiration for your tunes comes from? Because I know you were talking a little bit the other day about tomatoes. Can you explain about that?
Yeah, I've done a few sort of pretty fun kind of sound design experiments / I mean, it's not really experimental, like squeezing tomatoes and stuff, but we did a food Foley session, me and my friend, which Foley is the it's not actually quite the right term for this, but it's the practice of creating the sound effects for film. And it's quite a common thing to use for kind of gore scenes and stuff, is like vegetables and stuff, and like cracking up bits of celery, and we sort of mushed tomatoes and got cabbage and kind of pulled apart the fibers of the cabbage. That creates a really great sort of very textured sound, and just did a lot of fun stuff like that to create various effects.
It sounds like so much fun.
It actually was. I'm sad that I haven't done any more sessions of it, really, because
I kind of liked what you turned it into, though. You were kind of turning it into like these strange effects that you were sort of blending in with your tunes. That was really clever. Yeah,
these kind of alien textures and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And those kind of sounds make a great basis for like sort of sound design, because there's so much going on. It's this really surprising amount. You don't really sort of pay attention. Like when you chop into an onion or a cabbage or something, there's like you're sort of like cutting through all these different layers. And if you got like a really good microphone close up, it just like captures a lot of the detail that you normally miss. So yeah, it's
Who'd have thought you could get such amazing sounds out of cabbages and onions? Okay, here's another question for you. If you could travel back in time to give your younger self a piece of advice, like 10 years ago or something, what would that be?
It's a very difficult one, because the journey is set out and I've arrived at this point. I think it would just be something to the effect of like, just persevere. It's probably it. Like just keep trying. Like don't keep putting yourself out there. Keep sort of doing what you feel to be right. Because I think yeah, that's probably it actually. Yeah, like because there were lots of times where I allowed myself to just kind of sit back and just I don't know, just kind of let the time go by and just sit in my comfort zone basically. And it's not that it's wrong to do that all the time, but I did that plenty of times knowing for a fact that it was not the correct thing to be doing. Do you know what I mean? I think, we all have like an internal like barometer of like when it's right and wrong. Yeah. To kind of do that sort of thing. And yeah.
I can relate to that. I'm pretty sure I spent about 10 years doing that.
Yeah, I think it's probably quite a relatable thing, really. I think it's quite a human thing to kind of just let things pass you by a bit. And yeah, it's probably one of the great like sort of lessons of life, or things that people are kind of chasing after is the kind of courage to not do that. Yeah,
that's a really good piece of advice. Cool. And so we're on to the last question now. So we normally ask everybody for a recommendation of a film or a book or a podcast, a program or course, or anything that has helped you to work through something, or something that you're really looking forward to that you'd like to recommend.
Well, I would say the book that has had the most sort of recent and notable impact on my life is a book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. It's really good. It's a pretty hardcore book. But yeah, I would recommend it for sure.
What's it about?
So it's kind of the life story of an ex-Navy SEAL turned ultra athlete who just lived a very difficult upbringing, had just many different things going against him in life. It's just a very inspiring story. He's just experienced all kinds of horrific things in his childhood, and just like horrible dad who abuses him, racism that he experienced at school, and things like this, and just really hardcore story. And then just very inspiring because he sort of overcame it in the most just ridiculous way, and kind of turns his issues on their heads kind of thing, and actually uses them in this sort of stoic way to better himself, and now runs these 100-mile long ultra marathons that you have like between 24 to 36 hours to complete. It's just ridiculous, and I like it.
Oh my god,
that's my recommendation. But it's he's pretty brash. He's a military guy. Some people find him a bit challenging, basically. But last year I read the book, and it really like propelled me in a way that nothing else has. Like I just started going running, and I got into the best shape of my life. And,
oh my god, amazing! That sounds great.
Yeah.
I love it when it doesn't happen very often, but I love it when I find a book that I really get into, and just like you say, it propels me, or even that I just sort of devour and feel really inspired by it. It's been a while since I've got into a book like that. Yeah. So, would you say running's a big part of your well-being techniques, or whatever you call it?
when I was into like just doing daily runs, like sort of just kind of work up a sweat and you just feel there's like, I think a lot of anxiety and stuff is just kind of untapped energy as well. It's just sort of like busily kind of going around, and when you get back you just sort of would feel a lot more sort of zen.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But yeah, well, first, that's the end of the interview now.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Come on, let's do another one.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot for coming on.
It's a pleasure.
Cool. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Big up.
Thanks for listening to the Mad About podcast. You heard us talking about music today. You heard us rapping quite badly. We heard from our sound editor and musician friend Aaron, or Heran, on SoundCloud. And of course, we visited the Means Well.
We'll be sharing links to everything we talked about to our Facebook page. Just search Mad About Podcast.
In our next episode, we are totally listening.